Yes. Yeah. Let's do that. Is love really powerful enough to transcend space and time? Does Professor Brand and Dr. Mann's acts of selfishness, hubris, and ego take away from their incredible performances? And how many times did I get Ryan to cry? That's right. We're going to answer those questions and more on today's episode while we discuss the heartbreakingly magnificent sci-fi epic Interstellar from 2014. This is the Uncultured Cinematic Universe, the podcast where two friends and maybe sometimes their spouses show each other movies, shows, anything else we damn well please that they absolutely need to see or experience. I am your host, Justin. And while the cat is away, Joe, in the hot seat today, back by popular demand. Ladies and gentlemen, I give you Ryan Jackson.
It's me.
It's you.
It's a me.
Welcome back to the show. This is your second showing, a strong showing. How's it feel being back? It's been 6 months, right? Since the last time we did this?
We did it in June.
Yeah, and that's the 6 months. So damn near.
Well, no, we did it in July because June was Pride, July was Blockbusters.
Okay, so about 4 or 5 months.
It's been a while.
It's been, but a good time.
Yeah.
This is fun.
I always have a lot to say, and most of the time you guys don't get to hear it. So here we are.
It is fun to go back and listen to, or at least to listen to the episodes together in the car. And some of your comments are either like nice additions to that, like would have been welcome in the conversation, or it's like something I or Joe is about to say.
Yeah.
So like that's
You're
how
like,
you know.
just sit tight. Hold on, it's coming.
That's how you know, like we're all on the same wavelength. Yeah. So this is the end of towards the end of November. Holy shit! This is the second episode of November, and we are wrapping up another wild card month. Joe decided to leave, like he does for the great Northeast of America, just traveling all around. So yeah, we prepared for this
Yes.
weeks and weeks ago. We knew that you were going to be back on.
Mhm.
And what did you think, just broad brushstrokes, when I proposed watching this movie?
I didn't know anything about it. You asserted that it would make me cry.
Yes.
You were correct.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't know anything about it. You could tell from the promo that it was a space movie and that Matthew McConaughey was going to be in it.
Yeah.
That was it. That's all I got.
And you know what? Like that, I think that was what a lot of people took from it. So I'm going to go ahead and just jump around and kind of give my connection to it and introduction to this movie. And it was exactly that. It was like, it's a space movie with Matthew McConaughey, and that's it. But the big kicker, and I've talked about this before, is I know you don't know like directors and actors' names and stuff like that, but you know who Christopher Nolan is. If I were to say,
know his name.
you know his name, but
I've
and
heard
you're
it
familiar
before.
with the movies that he has done.
I couldn't list them.
Right. Well, I'll help with that. So Christopher Nolan, most noted for doing the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception,
he's okay.
Memento, Dunkirk, like those heady movies, things like that. So he had already made a splash with a bunch of those movies prior to this one. So he had always done like grounded,
as opposed to in the space.
In the space, yes.
Is that what you mean?
Correct. Okay. Yeah, like on the
earthbound
type of things. So when it's like, oh, Christopher Nolan is doing a movie about traveling to outer space, it's like, oh shit, that sounds awesome. Because he has a masterful hand of directing, getting the most out of his performers. And of course, we'll touch on this in a little bit, but he's known for having an incredible working relationship with Hans Zimmer, who did the score. Hans Zimmer did the score for several of his other movies, the Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, which have, sweeping, orchestral, gigantic, instantly recognizable pieces. And this one is no different. Yeah, so seeing the trailer, it was like, "Oh, space movie, whatever. Oh, directed by Christopher Nolan. S I don't care what it is, who's in it, sign me up. Matthew McConaughey, that's pretty cool." I
I don't
think
remember this happening in 2014. I have no recollection of this movie existing, so I had no frame of reference at all.
yeah, so this was post, Dark Knight Rises, after this was after Inception came out, so he was just hitting home runs left and right. Uh, so he was on this really strong trajectory towards the early mid aughts of just like he can do no wrong, and he's done several other movies after this. Dunkirk, which is like a war movie, which I never haven't seen yet, but that is on the list. I think Joe has seen it, so maybe we can.
One of you needs to see it or else it doesn't work
Yeah,
for the podcast.
yeah. And then most recently, he did Oppenheimer.
Oh, okay.
So, big sweeping epics, a lot of practical effects and stuff like that. Is what he's known for. And then also like really interesting twists he
Mhm.
throws in. He works a lot with his brother, Jonathan Nolan. Uh, Jonathan Nolan is also became his own household name, working with, I can't remember who else, but they co-wrote Westworld
Wouldn't it be
on his
funny if I knew that name?
Wouldn't it be funny?
I don't
Holy
know.
shit. I know. You'd be like, oh, you mean this person?
Ah!
Yeah, right.
No.
Amazing. Um, but yeah, so that's how that is exactly how I came to it, of just like space movie, whatever, Matthew McConaughey, cool. Christopher Nolan was the ceiling piece for it for me. Let's hit some first impressions. We're 10 minutes into the movie, that kind of stuff. What do you think you signed up for, and what were your thoughts?
10 minutes in, so the way we watched this was we were in the living room. We each had a controller for the PlayStation with a headset because he said that the score and the sound was really important to the movie. So rather than trying to rely on our sketchy TV speakers and our sound bar, he plugged us in so that we could really experience it. And for the first at least 10 minutes, all I can think is I don't like Matthew McConaughey this close to me. I hate the way he speaks. He sounds like someone doing a bad impression of Matthew McConaughey. The way that he says, I just, I want to, I didn't like it. So it took me a long time to move
To
away
get
from
away,
that.
yeah, to get
And I was
over
like,
that.
oh, John Lithgow.
Oh yeah,
Is
John
that his
Lithgow.
name?
Yeah.
It's like, "Oh, he's here." And that little girl, they cast that little girl really well. She looks like she could legitimately be his family.
Yeah, yeah.
That brother's a piece of shit. Somebody needs to do something about him.
Oh, yes.
But mostly, I was having a real problem with having Matthew McConaughey
Whispering in your ear.
whispering in my ear, and it took a long time to get around it.
Yeah, I can that's like one kind of like criticism I think that is known for this movie, is that it like McConaughey is full on McConaughey in this flick.
It's too
Um,
much.
it is a lot. It can be a lot. And then also like trying to suspend belief of just like, oh, he's this brilliant scientist
I mean, actor's gonna
pilot kind of
actor.
thing.
I can get past I can put
Sure.
whoever in the role, but, like, why has he gotta talk like this? And he's
I
gotta
mean,
be
he's a good boy from Texas. He gonna talk like that, I
I
guess.
mean, okay.
Yeah. So maybe the next time we watch another McConaughey movie, we will
Unplugged.
we will do it unplugged. Another one I want to watch is Dallas Buyers Club, and I think he took home an Academy Award for that one. I'm not sure, but that's another good one. Yeah, so it took a little bit to kind of warm up to it.
It took a minute to warm up to it, and then, like, some of the initial, um, big plot points, like, the world is a dust bowl and, um, the education system, they're
Ooh, God.
literally, uh, removing and replacing textbooks, which in 2014 probably sounded like a far reach, but in
Absolutely.
nearly 2024,
Mhm.
it's kind of almost our reality if somebody doesn't do something.
I kinda it is interesting that we do these movies. So this is the second one we've done. The first one we did was Terminator 2,
Mhm.
and when that movie came out in
They're like,
1991.
"Robots will never take over," and here we are, we're like, "Alexa, could you, like, do something?"
Yeah. And then, going back, like you said, in 2014, we're like, scrubbing books and rewriting history and all this kind of stuff, food famine and all that kind of stuff. Now it's like, oh shit, that's pretty close, to what could happen. Uh, I forgot about that aspect of it
Yeah,
because it's just like a couple throwaway lines in the beginning of the movie, but it's just like,
but
oh,
it's important. And then they're like, this generation is caregivers. We don't need them to be smart. In fact, it'd be better if they were dumb.
yeah.
It's like,
I mean, it was kind of nice to hear that like there's no more military, so that was kind of cool, and everyone is kind of living off the land, but the land is fighting against them. Whatever. Um, the fight the industrial military complex. So, um, yeah, so I'm glad you warmed up to it pretty quickly, and the concept of the movie doesn't start to get heady until like pretty far in. It's pretty self-explanatory and like easy to kind of glom onto, right?
yeah.
Towards the
Well, and
beginning.
anytime they're like, and this is all of the corn because the potatoes and the other thing didn't work. Okay, everybody listening?
Everyone paying attention? Great. Yeah. Good to know. Um, Here, let me run down some of the boring facts. Not boring. They're good stuff. There's good stuff in here actually. So this movie was released November 5th, 2014. Directed by Christopher Nolan, written by Jonathan and Christopher Nolan together, score by Hans Zimmer. Budget of 165 million. Box office of 703 million. Did really well. Starring Matthew McConaughey, Anne Hathaway, Jessica Chastain, Bill Irwin. Now, if I say Bill Irwin, do you know who I'm talking about?
The only Irwins I know play with crocodiles.
This one does not. This one plays with
Are you certain?
This one plays with Muppets.
Oh, well, I was gonna bring it around to Muppets, but I didn't. I don't know that.
Well,
I don't know that guy.
here's an early in. Bill Irwin, he did the voice of Tars and some puppeteering. That was an actual real life thing.
Yeah, the first time those
Four-legged.
four-legged plunky robots showed up, I was like, oh, what is this movie?
Yeah.
And like the first time they show up, they're kind of like going down the hallway,
Uh-huh.
and it's all kind of rinky, and they're got limbs flying everywhere, and they pan away really fast. And I was like, oh, they know it's bad.
Yeah.
And then they're around a lot.
Yeah. But then they kind of start moving in interesting ways and doing more
Yeah.
funny things. But yeah, real puppeteers. Bill Irwin, he is the original Mr. Noodle from Elmo's World.
Oh, how
The
fun!
mustache and the curly hair, the really tall
Yeah,
one.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, Bill Irwin,
A trained clown.
a trained clown.
Hmm.
That's right. Yeah, this is his.
I know about Mr. Noodle.
I can tell you all about Mr. Noodle, but I was looking through that and I was like, oh shit, that's really cool. Um, Ellen Burstyn, she plays old Murph,
How old?
the oldest Murph,
Okay.
ancient Murph. So there's a connection right there to The Exorcist. Ellen Burstyn was in The Exorcist in 1973, and here she is doing this. And then, of course, Michael Caine is in this. A big thing that people come to when they talk about this movie and what they think about is it had an actual theoretical physicist on board as an executive producer as well as scientific consultant.
Keeping him honest.
Yeah,
Big Bang Theory did that too.
yeah. Oh yeah. That's
Yeah.
right. And so a lot of the stuff that there's just spewing, it's not just
Like
sci-fi, whatever.
they
It's
don't just put nonsense on the blackboards like it's legitimate stuff
Mhm.
in case the people that are watching want to go,
Yeah.
actually.
Kip Thorne is his name. He was
Sure it
the
is.
just crossing my T's and dotting my lowercase J's.
Kip
Um,
Thorne sounds made up.
It's not. It's very real. a real celebrated theoretical physicist, which I appreciate, because this movie does a lot of just kind of explaining away quantum physics
Yeah.
and particle acceleration and things like that. And they did their homework, which is really cool. They utilized extensive practical and miniature effects. As I said before, that's a common staple with Nolan movies. He likes to do that. In The Dark Knight, he actually flipped over a truck. That was real. It wasn't CG. They really jumped or blew up a plane or whatever in The Dark Knight Rises, all that kind of stuff. He loves and lives for that shit.
I like practical too. It holds up better, I feel like.
Looks so good. And that's why I wanted to, and this was the first time too, when we watched this movie, like all the lights were off except for the Christmas tree.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, come on. So like the visuals of this movie, I think are so stunning and so interesting the way that they did it. And of course, rooting it back to science, notably the black hole, that was like a obviously computer render of theorized mathematics of what it could and would look like, based on just all projections, stuff like that. But years later, scientists actually observed a black hole like eating a star in space
Mhm.
from the infrared and all that kind of stuff. Like it actually looked like the render that they did. So their math checked the box.
It's pretty cool.
Really cool.
And it looks really neat too.
So cool. Like it's spherical and then it has that weird hemisphere thing. Really
Mhm.
neat. This movie was nominated for 5 awards at the 87th Academy Awards: Best Original Score, Best Production Design, Best Sound Editing, Best Sound Mixing, and 1 for Best Visual Effects. Which again, hats off to them because it is incredible. All right, let's see. Moving right along, we're just going to go ahead and just get this out of the way and do the plot.
Okay.
This thing has a timer on it, right? It surely does.
It's a whole iPad. I
It's
hope
a
it
whole
does.
ass iPad. Um, Great. Are you ready?
Sure. I don't know. We'll see what happens.
It's gonna happen. Here we go. In 3, 2, 1. 1 minute starts now.
So it's a movie where it's a movie where we show up and it's like a dust bowl and they're taking some testimony from some old people. You don't super know what their deal is yet. Um and we meet Murph and her dad and her shitty brother, and they live on a farm, and Murph's dad's kind of bummed because he wants to be something other than a farmer. They don't make super clear what, but he's really smart and he plays with computers, and they happen upon a space thing, a drone, and they magically tap into it with his laptop and bring it down, and that's a whole thing. And then all of a sudden they go home during a dust storm, and Murph's books are flying off the I'm running out of time. Murph's books are flying off the shelf, and it turns out to be a message, and it sends them to NASA, which they didn't know still existed, but it does. And Michael Caine is trying to figure out how to move the humans to a different planet, and he has 2 plans, and they're both kind of shitty. And then it turns out at the end that it works out both ways, kind of. The end.
45 seconds of the first 10 minutes of the movie.
I wasn't paying attention to the timer because I was trying to like look in the back of my brain to remember what happened.
Rifle through the
Yeah,
visuals of the movie. Yeah.
but I got it.
You got there. Yeah.
And Matt Damon's a shithead.
And surprise
He
Matt
is.
Damon is a shithead. Surprise in
And
nobody.
Topher Grace is there for some reason. I don't know.
Topher Grace shows up and he's like, "Hey, what? All right, yeah." Those 2 cameos are definite surprises.
Yeah.
I remember seeing it in theaters and audible guffaws of, "Is that Matt Damon? That's Matt Damon. Is that Matt Damon? That's Matt Damon." But like, because you see, they open up the pod and you kind of just see up his nose for a second,
Like
and that's
I
what
know that nose.
fucking is anyway. Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne.
He
uh,
can survive anything.
it's like Jason Bourne in space, which is really kind of funny because like this movie came out a little before The Martian, so people kind of equate him with just being in space for a couple
He goes
years.
to the audition. He's like, I've been in space before.
Hired. Yeah. Super cool. All right, let's move on down and we'll talk about what I think, in my opinion, makes this movie so iconic and kind of why I wanted to talk about it. And even just to get you to observe it and watch it. So if I'm thinking of 2014, it had been a minute since there had been a huge sci-fi epic in cinema. I don't think the new Star Wars Episode 7 had come out yet. I think it was about to 2015, 2016. I think the new trilogy started.
Mm.
So it had been a while since there was like this great sci-fi exploratory epic, and this was it for a long time. I already talked about the trailer being super ambiguous, but like really intriguing. Of like it was really just the shot of kind of just like some of the corn stuff, just like people in a corn maze, and maybe some overdub of McConaughey or Michael Caine saying something profound.
They were trying to get people to come. I hope it was Michael Caine.
Yeah, Michael Caine. Listen, um, But it was the main thing that I remember from the first trailer is the shot of Coop leaving his house in his truck and
Mhm.
him just crying. And everyone's like, why is he so what's happening here? And then the final shot is just the rocket going up. And then it's just Interstellar. And that's all they gave you.
Matthew McConaughey is Space Cowboy.
A literal space cowboy.
Yeah.
Uh,
Alright.
yeah. And that's all it was. But like I said, that's all I needed to be sold, and apparently a lot of other people too. The trailer itself, or not the trailer, the poster was also super iconic in that regard. It had like a vertically stacked Interstellar inside of the like blast from the rocket leaving Earth, and that's all they gave you, nothing else. So super cool. I loved it so much. The themes of space and time travel are rooted in real science, which I think, I'm always going to come back around. It's just like, that's really cool that they did that. They didn't have to. They could have just, just spouted whatever, uh, like most typical.
Yeah, they could have just done whatever, and then there would be angry Reddit threads about it, but it would be fine. It would be good enough.
It would have been good enough, but the fact that they did their homework is just like, you know what? That's really cool.
Yeah.
I think it's really great. And the grounded realism of the plight of Earth makes it all the more convincing, especially since like those kinds of things have happened in human history multiple times. The famine that they talk about in Ireland, the potatoes and all that. Very plausible,
Mhm.
plausible things. Before we come back around to, I have this huge section. I want to talk about the poem, but we'll come back to that.
They wanna talk about the poem too. They said it like 16 times.
Because it's so good. Let's talk about the performances for a minute. Let's come back to Matthew McConaughey. Did he? Did you warm up to him? Were you able to get past of having McConaughey just whisper into your ear?
Yes. Yeah, after he had to leave, and then especially when they get stuck on that stupid water planet for what turns out to be 23 years, and then they come back and he has to watch all of the transmissions from his family. That's where I started like really, really paying attention. Because up until then, um, I was just thinking of here's where I'm going to tie it to Muppets.
Oh my god. Okay, yeah.
Once we got to NASA and they're explaining the whole thing of wormholes and travel, the only thing I could think about was Farscape. Do you
Yes.
remember
You
Farscape?
remember Farscape? Yeah.
Where John Crichton he's also a space cowboy. They're not trying to find wormholes. He winds up slipping through one, and
Mhm.
then he travels to all these different dimensions and meets all these quirky characters. And it's Muppets, and it's Jim Henson.
Yeah, that's right.
So for like the first big long bit,
Were you
I was
like, "Am I
I'm
gonna see a
just
Muppet?"
like, we did this already. I've seen this. I
Uh-huh.
don't need Matthew McConaughey to whisper to me about a thing that I've already seen that was better because it had Muppets.
Mhm.
And then they humanized it and made it a little better.
Yeah.
But Muppets. Never not
Were you
thinking about
waiting for a
Muppets.
Muppet to show up?
No, I knew there wasn't gonna be a Muppet. I don't Has Matthew McConaughey ever worked with a Muppet? I hope not. They
Eh,
don't deserve him. He
maybe.
doesn't deserve that.
He might have showed up as a guest on Sesame Street, I don't know.
I hope not.
Maybe he was in the Muppet movie or the second one. Maybe not.
No,
You would know that.
I would know.
But, I mean, there is
He's
a
just not
connection.
he takes himself way too seriously. You can't be around Muppets when you think you're as important as he thinks he is. Listen to
Mhm.
him talk.
Listen to him.
Ugh.
Listen to that country Texas accent.
I don't care that he's Southern. I care that he's very whispery and thinks so. I can't. I just can't.
I think his performance is really charismatic.
I feel like he got better as it went on.
Sure. Yeah, he's kinda talking to his father-in-law, John Lithgow, and he's kinda, spouting some kind of profound stuff of just like, "We forgot our place in the stars," and it's just like, this is too much. But I think if it was anybody else, um, I don't know, for some reason I'm thinking like John Hamm or someone, I don't know, who kinda just like talks normally and just like, "We forgot our place in this," like, I don't think it would feel as much. To me, I think McConaughey's performance is utterly captivating and so incredibly human. Um, Despite his breathy
In spite of
whispers,
himself.
in spite of his own self, he tries real hard. The raw emotion and real emotion he portrays is just top tier, I think. And I want to know who won Best Actor for that year.
Joe
And
could tell us, I bet.
I bet Joe is screaming it in his car right now and elbowing Jonathan and be like, "See, I knew it. I knew it." Um, uh, but I think his performance is great. He has a real nice complete arc all the way through of feeling like he has to do his duty, finding his motivations are strong and true.
Yeah,
Of
and he's like, I can just do this thing and it'll be really quick and
you
it'll
turn
save
around
my kid's future.
and I'm gonna lose only like maybe a decade, couple decades at
Like my
most.
kids, maybe they'll be driving by the time I come back.
Yeah. So like no big deal. NBD, it's fine. We'll just shoot out to space, go through a wormhole, and come back. How bad could it be?
Yeah. Like,
So like, shame on him, I guess, for thinking that
oh,
everything would
that's
go.
the other thing. So part of the reason I was struggling in the beginning of the movie was because they just expect you to just be cool with a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
This man's been farming corn for we don't know how long, and he just gets on a spaceship. Like he shows up to NASA
Mm-hmm.
unexpected and uninvited, and then like 2 days later he's in space. And he's just like freeballing this spaceship, like just docking it all. Like he does
Just
this
docking
every
it all over the
day.
place. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. I did catch that this last time too. It's like, isn't there like an extreme amount of training and preparation, just
Like
period, you
even
have to go
just to
through
prepare your actual like conditioning your
your body?
body
Yeah.
to go through these things. And he's just like, ah, fuck it, I ride tractors.
Yeah. It's like, well, you were a best pilot
We don't know how
however
long
long
ago.
ago, maybe 10 years at
No,
least.
his older
Oh, it was
child.
15. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
older than that probably.
Which I forgot to note. Yeah. Timothy Chalamet, a young baby Timothy
I
Chalamet,
don't care.
our Willy Wonka.
I didn't like him.
He was kind of a shithead.
He was a big shithead. All he did was be mean to his sister.
Well, he was nicer as a younger kid.
Not a lot.
Casey Affleck was kind of a dickhead. The
Is that who that was?
grown up version of him.
He was a
dick.
bigger dickhead, but the kid was always a dickhead.
No, he's just like, hey man, I just want to be a farmer. It's all good.
He was mean to his sister all the time.
Oh yeah, he was kind of short with her because she had like illusions of grandeur
And saying, Murphy's Law and just
Mm.
picking on her for no good reason at all.
Mhm. Yeah, what a kid. What kids? Oh yeah, also I'll come to them in a second. Anne Hathaway
Mm-hmm.
is a second billing.
Oh.
You lost a visual. You get to vamp.
Well, while you're up, do you want to see what Joe's transmission is?
Oh,
We do have a transmission from our baby Joe
that's right. Special transmission from Joe. Here
that we
go.
haven't seen.
We haven't.
So we'll all get to watch this together.
All right, here we go.
Hey, Justin and Ryan. It's me, surprise villain, Matt Damon. I just woke up from cryo sleep here on my planet, and I just wanted to send a quick message to say that everything's great here. Lots of trees and air and stuff, and you can send the ship, send the guys. I'll wait here for you. What else? I think it's really great that we get to cover Interstellar this week on the podcast, which is a movie based on my life as a hero astronaut. I think that the visual effects in the movie are phenomenal. The score and its organ smashing are iconic, and I especially love that for a sci-fi movie, it's a deeply emotional drama about love and humanity, even when the gravity stuff gets a little what? So I really hope you talk about all those things. And Tars and Case, my favorite characters in all of cinema. Please talk about them as well. Anyway, I'll let you get back to it. And I can't wait to listen to the episode when it finally reaches me in about 45 years. Again, this is astronaut Matt Damon signing off and awaiting your arrival. There's nothing wrong here, but please send help immediately. Okay, bye.
Fucking Joe.
Everything's fine.
Lots of trees and things. I would like to think that is exactly what Dr. Matt Damon sent. It was just like, yeah, totally cool. Everything's fine. Thumbs up. Please hurry.
Yeah.
Like what a dick. What a dick move. Thank you, Joe, for your transmission. We were banking on it being a recording similar to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was hoping for either the Coop McConaughey version of it.
Mm-hmm.
But this was great. I did not expect that. Classic Joe.
Villain spaceman, Matt Damon.
Which no one saw coming.
Yep.
Which really no one did see coming. Obviously, he didn't get billing or anything like that on the posters or anything like that. And he wasn't allowed for like the first 2 weeks of press junket stuff.
Oh, that's interesting.
Keep it secret. Which is really cool. And also, speaking of like 2 weeks after premiere or whatever, Hans Zimmer didn't want to release the soundtrack to the public until 2 weeks after its premiere because he wanted people to experience it in the theater, which is great. Because yes, that score rips, Joe. You're right. We'll come back to that in a second. Anne Hathaway, second billing. Andy, yes, that's right. Bringing it right back around to episode 1.
Episode 1,
right? From The Devil Wears Prada. Yes, she may have imperfect motivations, but I think she's kind of ultimately screwed over the most. She's kind of her own dad.
Her own dad shoots her into space knowing she can do literally nothing.
Yeah, it is all for naught. That sucks the worst.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is the exact opposite side of father-daughter relationship compared to Coop and Murph.
Mm-hmm.
But I think she has a really strong, solid performance, even if it's revealed later on that she was in love with Wolf Reinhardt. I don't remember his name. The other doctor scientist who's dead.
Yeah. Whose planet we don't get to go to because we had to go to Waterworld.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll come back to
and learn about the theory of relativity.
Theory of relativity, as well as is it relativity?
Yeah, because of the gravity and the hours pass differently there. That didn't occur to
them. Oh, yeah,
them
that's right.
That...
The time is relative to where yeah. Because it was so close to the black hole, it was literally stretching space
They
time.
thought that they, without actually thinking about it, they thought that they had been getting solid data for years, but
and they're like, oh, shit.
The space lady, the astronaut, had only actually been on her planet for like an hour, and she was dead as fuck.
Yeah, super dead, super drowned.
Yeah. And if they had just thought about it for a second, like, oh, 1 hour here is 7 years on Earth, then they could have really thought about it. But they were in such a hurry because all of a sudden they're like, Matthew McConaughey's here. We got to get him in a rocket. Go, go, go.
Everybody go. Yeah. And okay, so I can kind of not explain it away, but it makes sense, I guess, that they had been working in secret, NASA had, and it was kind of, even though it was built on a web of lies, Plan A was kind of hush-hush and hurried and all that kind of stuff. So
we need to talk about these plans.
So whatever. Yeah, just 2 plans. Come up with 3, 4, 5 plans.
And neither plan had a plan beyond... This is okay. So plan A was we're going to send our humans to these planets and they're going to establish a base and we'll send more humans.
Once we figure out this equation of gravity. Right.
The average Joe is not getting on a rocket to some planet on the other side of a wormhole. So good luck with that. But then plan B was we have all these embryos. Where did you get those embryos? Number one, I'd like to know if you're a secret space organization. Where'd you get all these hundreds of embryos? And then 2, when they get to the planet and they're supposed to cook them up or whatever they do, who's going to take care of these children? Yeah. One fucking astronaut? Who's gonna? And what are they feeding them? Is there an Enfamil plant on planet Space X? Whatever.
Yeah.
What are they feeding these kids? You're going to have 72 infants and 1 adult and no food?
But it's repopulating. Yeah.
What is happening?
Yeah, like if it's just Dr. Brand, Anne Hathaway's character on that planet, and she's like, "Well, I gotta go be super mom."
To
Well,
94 infants that all grow in, and the older they get, the more troublesome they become. Maybe they have so many so that they can feed some of them to the other ones. I don't know.
oh yeah,
They don't have a plan.
That's
The
right.
plan is babies. Babies as far as the eye can see. Like what? They don't have a plan beyond the babies.
Right.
And
Yeah.
even getting them to be babies. Like do they just
Someone's got to carry them to term.
Well, no, because
and
they briefly speak about it. Michael Caine's like, "We'll incubate, I don't know, 50, I don't know how many he says, but we'll incubate so many of these embryos and then those ones will grow up and they'll make more babies."
then
So they're
they'll take care
also
of it
not going to give them sex ed. They're just going to turn them loose and see what happens
because we got to repopulate.
because we got to repopulate. But how do these initial babies, who's going to take care of them? What are they feeding them?
Big questions.
There is no plan.
Yeah. It's pretty what's the opposite of foolproof?
Shoddy
Shoddy.
is bad.
Full. So much foolishness.
So bad.
It is a bad plan. And then the plan A is like, go discover a new planet, and by the time you get back, like, I'll have it's the ultimate bullshit of like, I'll procrastination, like, I'll do it later. I'll
Well, then you
figure it out.
find out he knew before he sent him. He had
That
already
it was
solved the
unsolvable.
equation.
It was
not a thing.
unsolvable.
Yeah.
Unsolvable is what it was. He told him he solved it, but he did not solve it. And that's where I kind of
Same as Matt Damon.
Matt Damon, noted shithead.
Trees everywhere. So many trees.
It's good. There's a surface.
Come look at all these trees.
There's a subsurface. It's great. And maybe
you guys
life.
got to come here.
Yeah, totally cool. No big deal. No red flags.
None.
I'm Matt Damon.
Come with me down this dark hole. It's totally fine.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out and really pay attention to like, okay, so Michael Caine has to solve the equation of gravity. And that's all they really speak to about it. It's like, I need to figure out gravity.
Well, he has to figure out how to make it more than 3 dimensions.
To leave somehow. To leave. And
so like manipulate the wormhole and time and space.
I thought
and they figured out that gravity is the key because they're getting all these gravitational anomalies that are giving them these little pieces, but they don't know what it is.
Yeah.
And these supreme beings are in 5 dimensions.
Yes.
So
yes, being one dimension higher gives you master over the others below you.
What's the 4th dimension? Is it like
Time.
Oh, okay. It's not like on a ride where it's like it's 4D where it's 3D and then they like blow air on you.
No. That's a different 4D. Different. So we are 3-dimensional beings experiencing the 4th dimension of time, but we don't have mastery over it. We are like.
Is that why we can't get rid of daylight savings? We're like, we will move this hour around.
Once we become fourth dimensional beings, then we will have mastery over it.
And then we can stop doing daylight savings.
Then we can fucking stop it finally.
Finally.
Yeah. We'll get to there. But yeah, the scientific equation is just like, I need to solve gravity. And I thought my interpretation of it was in order to leave the Earth. In order to because to blast a rocket off into space, you're fighting against the gravity of the Earth, and you use a lot of fuel or whatever so in order to make yourself lighter, you have to negate.
The way I interpreted it was gravity was the key to them being able to understand how to manipulate time.
Somehow, right? Sort of time travel-ish, timey-wimey stuff kind of thing. All confusing. However, rooted in science. So way to go. Super cool.
I believe them.
Yeah. I'm going to talk about the Murphs' performance. The Murphs is 3 of them. Mackenzie Foy, young Murph, Jessica Chastain, mid Murph, Ellen Burstyn, old Murph. You see old Murph first.
You don't know it's her yet.
Yeah. But you're like, is that Ellen Burstyn? Yes, it is. Doing the video documentary kind of thing, which is cool. That's a neat little kind of throwaway thing. Mackenzie Foy, does that young actress look familiar to you? No. She played young Renesmee in Breaking Dawn 1 and 2, or 2, part 2.
Oh, I mean, That was a long time ago. And wasn't she like heavily CGI'd in that movie?
There was the nightmare CGI version of it, but
Yeah.
then like once she like it turns a certain age and she can just be a person, that was her. But yeah, that was her claim to fame, and then getting this role is incredible.
I
Loved.
thought it was good casting. Like they looked like I don't think the two siblings looked like siblings, but she definitely looked like she could be Matthew McConaughey's kid.
Mhm. And then the aged up version of her, Jessica Chastain,
Also good casting.
also great casting
Mhm.
there. And I already talked about how uh, Timothy Chalamet and um,
Whatever
Casey
Affleck,
Affleck.
yeah.
Casey Affleck, that was a great one too. Believable, putting them side by side. That's what he would age
I didn't
into.
like either one of them.
Yeah, kind of a dickhead.
They were shitty. I didn't
Yep.
like them.
But
And then his whole family gets TB, I guess. What is their coughing disease?
they're just breathing in dirt, I guess. Yeah, maybe it's TB. Who knows?
Where is Topher trying to take him? We don't know.
Underground.
Oh,
Back to NASA with him,
for what?
just to get out of the. Stop breathing dirt. Come
What
underground.
about literally everybody else?
Fuck him. I don't know.
Fuck these guys.
Yeah. He's like, but it's my girlfriend's, I guess, family.
We've never met him before until he gets in the Jeep and they're driving to her family home.
Yeah. She's like, come on, Topher, let's go to my house.
And I'm like, who are you?
Love interest or whatever, or fellow scientist or doctor.
We find out at the end he's a doctor.
Yeah. But Jessica Chastain, I think she also had a great performance. Not as nuanced, I think, as Mackenzie Foy's. Being the, I mean, it's easier to kind of emote or at least the handful of scenes that young Murph had to do were more impactful, I think.
Yeah, well, and she had more of a range in the beginning where she started out like happy kid and she's like, oh no, you have to meet with the principal.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden she's heartbroken. She's on this adventure with her dad that she thinks is going to be really cool. And then it turns out to be this thing that's going to take him away. And then she's heartbroken. Second Murph just has to be mad for a really long time.
Mad
so she
Murph.
spends 2/3 of her performance being very angry.
Mm-hmm.
And she doesn't actually get to be a character until way later.
Yeah. Yep. And then Ellen Burstyn is just there for a second to be just old Murph. Just to firmly just end the chapter of Murph, which is really cool. Let me run back through.
Oh, she said something that really got me at the very, very end where she had been in cryo sleep for 2 years or whatever, and they woke her up, and Matthew McConaughey's like, "Why are you still are here? How did you know I would come back?" And she says,
I was wondering if you were going to cry on camera.
Well, you know what she says.
Oh, I know what she says. That was the last one. So we watched this movie in 2 sittings.
Yeah. She says, "My dad promised me."
Mm-hmm. So good. So we watched this movie in 2 sittings, and the first one had the 23-year transmission one, and I knew that scene was coming up, and I was like, oh God, this is the hardest scene to watch. And there's a couple other ones in there too where he had to leave. And I was like, okay, we're good for a minute. Or actually, I think we're good. When we came back to night 2, I was like, it's just like action adventure.
The way he cut it off was right before. Had we met Matt Damon?
Yeah, we just met
met him. We had just gotten to his planet, and I was like, okay, I think I know what the plan's gonna be. I'm pretty annoyed by this movie. I'm really tired of listening to Matthew McConaughey talk. What I think should happen is both the Matts get back on the rocket and go home, and Anne and Rom, the other guy, they stay and they do the embryo thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, all right, everybody wins.
Nope.
Matt Damon doesn't want to be here. McConaughey doesn't want to be here. They'll take the rocket and they'll go home. And then fucking Damon. All hell broke. Like 10 minutes into our second sitting, all hell broke loose.
Yep. It's Michael Caine's character dies, and on his deathbed,
his deathbed has to reveal to Murph that it was all a lie. Why?
He's like, oh, I lied to you this whole time, and everybody else.
And why? Why even say that?
Yeah, why not
and
just?
And then he was so hell-bent on this stupid poem that he couldn't even tell her
the whole thing.
Anything. He just had to stop what he was saying because he's like, oh crap, I'm about to die. And then he has to start reciting this poem because he's dramatic, I guess. I don't know.
The old man loves drama. He's a drama king. He's a liar and he lives for the dramatics. But yeah, so as
She's
soon
like,
as
just tell me. And he's like, I only have a second.
there's
Do
a
not
lot,
go swift.
there's a lot of lines I got to get through. Don't bother
It's
me.
a long poem.
It's really not. There's only 6 stanzas, but yeah. So we cut it off as soon as Matt Damon shows up, and we come into night 2. And I'm like, okay, all the heavy, dramatic, heartbreaking pieces are done. That's in part 1. Part 2 is just action adventure, and we get to the end, and there's like the wormhole travel again, and all that kind of stuff. And then we show up back on. But then I forgot that there's a couple more heavy hitting pieces.
That one scene is only a couple minutes long, but oh man.
Yeah, and I kind of had beef for a second of just like, wouldn't he want to like hang out and talk to her more and all that kind of stuff? But
she can't.
But
she's
she can't.
literally
She's
dying.
literally dying, and she's like, I have my family
put
here.
herself in a freezer so that she could see her dad one last time. And she's already on oxygen. She's only gonna be alive for who knows how long. So she's like, good to see you, Dad. I'm glad you came back. I'm glad I believed in you.
I gotta go.
I gotta go.
You should go.
You should go. Don't watch me die. That's not, nobody wants that. Get out.
Yeah. So like the ending can seem sudden, and I think I'm okay with it ending the way that it does. I thought I remembered it. I misremembered the ending of it's his own accord, his own idea of like, I'm going to sneak off and go, like after I see Murph and leave pretty unceremoniously, I'm just going to go sneak onto a ship and just go to Brand, her planet. But it's Murph's idea. Mm-hmm. He's like, what do I do? Where should I go? And she says, Brand, go to her. She's waiting for you. And he's like, oh shit, yeah, you're right. Okay, all right. Later.
Deuces.
See ya. See you on the other side, kid. So at first I misremembered it being kind of like anticlimactic and kind of an undercut, but I think it's a really good ending. The way that it kind of wraps everything up. Let's hit the significance of the poem, because I know you're just like, this poem.
It just kept coming up at the most inopportune times. Mm-hmm. And it just felt like they were just trying to drill it into you. And it's
because it is so good. There's deep pieces to it. They didn't read the whole thing, which is fine. But there's like really neat pieces that kind of tie it to the movie. And I think that's why. So the title is Do Not Go Gentle Into That Good Night by Dylan Thomas. Basically, the whole premise of it is basically the human race won't and shouldn't give up or, give up the ghost, give in to death without a fight. And that's the whole, do not go gentle into that good night, death being the good night. The thing that they always come back to is just rage against the dying of the light. So there's that first stanza. And then it kind of talks about 4 essentially like types of like mankind or men that confront death. The wise man, the good man, the wild man, and the grave man. And parallels between these can be drawn to several characters, but the wise man can be easily drawn to Professor Brand. The poem says, though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words have forked no lightning, they do not go gentle to that good night. So wise men at their end, they know the dark is right. They know that death was coming for them anyway, and that all of their efforts are futile. And with words forked no lightning, he couldn't change the outcome. He couldn't fork a strike or solve the equation. So he does not go gentle into that good night. He kind of eases into it. The good men, the last wave by, crying how bright their final or their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay, rage against the dying of the light. So Coop is representative of the good men. He's a good father. He's a good man. His motivations are pure. He thinks he's doing the right thing. His frail deeds being his inept venture to be a hero, essentially, to kind of save mankind. The wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight and learned too late they grieved it on its way, do not go gentle into that good night. That's Tom. That's the brother, kind of a shithead, fighting the wrong fight, essentially. He's like, Dad left us. He's not coming back. I have to take care of the farm. He's fighting the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. He's ignorant to what harm he was actually causing. His kid's dying. His wife and other kid are deathly ill. wild, right? But he goes gentle into that good night. Um, and the last one, the grave man, which of course is Dr. Man. Grave men near death who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay, rage, rage against the dying of the light. Near death, he says multiple times, like bringing me back from the dead. Like as soon as I got here, I knew this planet had nothing for me. He was near death, but his blind eyes could blaze like meteors. He's refusing to see the truth of it, and he is acting out and lashing out against it, and he is raging. So it's interesting that Coop and Dr. Mann both rage, and they actually do fight against each other. It's pretty interesting. I love that poem. I think it's really cool, and I think it's interesting that they used it. The goddamn score is so fucking awesome. It is. I'm sure you've heard it multiple times across TikTok without even knowing it. It is that iconic. We will be posting, I'll send it to you, the thing I talked about on the previous episode, just before Joe and I recorded. There's a good one of like how Hans Zimmer wrote the score to Interstellar, and it's a funny one. It's hilarious. But like I said in that episode, that solidified for me. I was like, yep, we're going to do Interstellar because
you wanted to do it for Blockbuster, but it didn't meet the criteria.
Right. It wasn't a summer blockbuster because it came out in November, all that kind of stuff. Hans Zimmer is quoted as saying that this score is his favorite that he's ever written, the best work of his career, which I believe it. It is incredibly poignant and simple, but I don't know, something about it and just the music theory behind the way he constructed it, because it plays a lot throughout the film. But it is one of his best, I think. So there's a really neat story with how he came up with it, the truth, not the funny one that we're going to post later. So without revealing the plot to the movie, Christopher Nolan wrote a short story for Zimmer about a father leaving a child to complete an important job. The story contained 2 sentences of dialogue: "I'll come back" and "when." Nolan then asked Zimmer to spend one day composing some musical interpretations of the story. So on one night, Zimmer wrote a 4-minute piano and organ piece that represented his idea of fatherhood. And when he played it for Nolan, Nolan was pleased and right. He was like, "That'll do." And then he went on to explain the full plot and concept to him. But Zimmer was admittedly kind of skeptical. He's like, "Oh, it's this little plinky kind of sweet piano part. I don't think it'll go with this giant epic space thing you just described to me." But Nolan was like, no. Like that's that piece that you showed me. Like that's the heart of this movie. It is like Murph and Coop's theme essentially, which plays so many times throughout the movie, which is great. And then Joe talked about it. They used a real organ from a church, the Temple Church in London from 1926, this giant, humongous church organ to record some of those pieces. And that's why I wanted the headphone experience, because some of the stuff is just like this giant swelling, just like one chord, just it gets so loud. And I think it's operatic and it's amazing. But I do love that it's not overly sci-fi with like beep boops and digital effects.
I like
and
that
stuff
they took the
could do.
robots and made them like kind of humanized them.
Yeah,
and the one of them is kind of like the sad robot from the Hitchhiker's Guide.
Yeah. You said that during the movie. I was like, that is exactly it. Yeah, the Bill Irwin, Mr. Noodle himself, just having a good old time.
He doesn't talk on Sesame Street. I'd never heard his voice before.
It's true, but apparently that's what he sounds like. He's a sarcastic robot.
He's a sad robot.
Sad, sarcastic robot. Hilarious. The theme reminds me of John Williams' Star Wars theme in a sense, in that it's just epic orchestral pieces, real stringed instruments, and not digital effects and beat boops and whatnot. Super cool. So I want to turn it over to you and kind of give me some of your overall thoughts on the movie, what you took away from it. Go through some of your notes. What did you got?
I've hit most of this stuff on my notes. There was one line that they said that I thought was pretty cheesy. Every rivet they've struck could have been a bullet. Like, ugh.
But when Michael Caine says it, it's cool, right? Like it's explainable away, whatsoever. He's like, it could have been a bullet.
Did he say it? I don't think. I thought that Murph said it.
No, it's towards the beginning. I think when they're like,
it was after the moment where their Waterworld thing cost them basically 24 years.
Was it after that? Oh,
that's where it is in my notes.
In the notes, okay. Check the timestamp. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Yeah, a little bit of cheese is fine. Like I said, like she even calls it out herself. Like when she solves the problem, once she gets all the binary code or whatever, Morse code
from the watch, which is really cool. The way they did that was really cool. I struggled a little bit with the way that they brought him out of the wormhole and into the Matrix situation where he was doing the communicating with Murph.
Mm-hmm.
The beginning of that, I was like, this is weird. This looks like the Marriott carpet. What are we looking at? But then I thought it was really cool how he could kind of travel from moment to moment to moment, but it was always in her room. It was kind of, I don't know, but it was interesting. I like the way they did that. I like the way that he was able to communicate with her through these different things.
Mm-hmm.
And you could see once they kind of showed it to you and explained it, it was like, okay, so here's the coordinates. They gave him the coordinates because they thought it was a good idea to get him on this mission. And then there's the moment where he's trying to leave and she's like, no, they say wait. It says right here, it says wait. And they show the moment where he's trying to tell her to not let him go.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I'm sure you've heard that. I'm sure you've heard that TikTok sound too, where he's like beating on the thing and he's just like crying. He's like, no. Yeah.
Not my algorithm.
It's on my For You page, or it was.
And then the moment where he gets to tip tap the little watch, and then she immediately figures it out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, like if you saw that on a secondhand doing,
I'd be like, oh, that's too bad. I'm gonna have to take this somewhere and get it fixed, and I'd put it in my pocket and move on with my life.
Like he couldn't have done. I guess.
But she was kind of starting to figure out that the ghost was him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, you're my poltergeist. You're my ghosty. Mm-hmm. It was you all along. So then she's like, okay, this watch is doing a weird thing. Hang on, it's got to be, because she had already started kind of putting the pieces together. That was kind of cool. Mm-hmm. And the way they led us along was cool.
Yeah, I love when time travel movies do that kind of thing. Like when it's at the end, it's like, oh, that's how that got set in motion at the beginning. Love those kinds of things.
I like how they wrapped it up. The very, very end where they just show Anne on the baby planet.
Planet baby, yep.
And they give no explanation. And she just all alone constructed. I guess we don't know how long the wolf guy was alive.
Yeah, we don't know what he built already.
We don't know what he was able to accomplish.
And I think she had the other robot, I think. Right? I think she had Case with her.
Yeah, she had one because the other one flew the thing into the wormhole to collect data with Coop.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. Mr. Noodle was there with him.
Mr. Noodle.
Mr. Noodle was there with Coop in the black hole. Yeah. Very cool.
I would love to know what their plan was with all them babies.
I think that Murph station or Cooper station was flying to maybe because but
it was either plan A or plan B according to Michael Caine.
Now what was plan A and plan B now?
What was B2? What was step 2 of plan B? Step 1, babies. Step 2, question mark? Like
it's in the sequel, Interstellars. two stellar.
Look who's talking to.
Yeah, and it's just a family comedy of Anne just be like, how do I raise all these babies?
97 babies and nothing to feed them and nowhere to put them and no teachers, nothing.
Maybe she wouldn't do 90 something at first. Maybe she'll only do 23 and they can call the movie 23 and Me. She's like, how am I going to raise all these babies? And it's really just it's comedy for comedy's sake.
And they're falling into ravines and floating off because there's not enough gravity.
This baby's just running amok. Yeah. So funny.
And you got the metal robot guy clanging around trying to
Oh,
corral the
he's kind of
babies.
like, yeah. He's kind of like Mr. Nanny kind of a
Yeah.
thing, running around. That'd be great. That's hilarious. The yeah, the Tesseract scene.
Oh, yep, that was what it was called.
So a Tesseract is a four-dimensional cube. It's a cube that stretches out infinitely. And again, science and real stuff coming into it. That was their best interpretation of what a space like that could look like. It's everything is the same up and down as it is left and right. That scene where he's kind of like flying over her room and there's like infinite
Yeah. And
versions
he's
of
like,
her
no,
doing it.
she's 12, she's 15, she's 17. Hold on, she's not big enough yet.
Yeah. Super cool. I love that. Like we can't visualize what a real Tesseract would look like, what a 4D cube would actually look like. So having it be constructed in that way that you can move through time,
I
like,
mean, they guessed wormholes pretty good. Who knows?
yeah, right. Because like if you were a four-dimensional person, like that's how time would be to you. It would be the same as moving front and back, left and right, up and down. You could move through time in that way, like pages in a book, which
Because
is
gravity.
because gravity,
Somehow.
somehow. Super cool. I love that. Yeah, let's run through some iconic lines and scenes, which is really just scenes that I want to talk about that I love so much, and then we'll wrap it up and get some final
What are we
thoughts.
drinking? Tell me what this
Oh,
is.
that's right. I told you just before we came back here. This is a Murph-tini. Murph-tini. It is kind of a riff on a Empress 75 martini. So it's Empress gin, lemon juice, maple syrup instead of simple syrup, and a splash of blue curacao to give it kind of like spacey blue vibes, and a
Spice.
and a spice, and then a single spherical ice cube in there in the middle, just for the singularity, for the wormhole, that kind of thing.
Planets.
Yeah, planets, and then a splash of prosecco on top. It's
It was
delicious.
delicious.
We'll make it real spacey and give it a cool spacey background. Yeah,
We have a guy for that.
we got a guy for that. It's me. Let's see. The leaving scene is iconic. It was the one, like I mentioned, was featured in the trailer of him in the truck kind of leaving. The heightened emotions and feelings, the swelling music, and then like the overdubbed dialogue of the countdown of the ship taking off and the sounds of the rocket and all that. It is I think is a masterclass of a scene. And that's kind of started some of the unique shots with this movie. Some of like the vehicle shots that Nolan got with this, where like the camera's like on the side of the either like the spaceship or the truck or whatever. It's really interesting to have it be there as opposed to like, when someone is typically driving away in a scene or whatever, it's like straight through the windshield.
Yeah.
Just having it kind of like be off to the side gave it just really sweeping, unique kind of shot. The wormhole jump, when the whole crew is all together and they're first going through the wormhole, kind of terrifying, right?
When everything's rattling and shaking, and especially having it like being in it because of the headphones.
Yeah.
It was wild.
Yeah, and just like the beeping and all that kind of stuff. And then she's like, Anne Hathaway's kind of reaching out and her fingers are getting all bendy and
The
stuff.
first handshake.
Yeah, and turns out it was actually Coop the whole time. Super cool. A neat visual way to show jumping through a wormhole, doing typical space jump stuff.
Typical wormhole things.
Like you've seen like space jumps and things like that in other sci-fi movies, but I thought this one was really cool. Muppets, or Star Wars and things like that, which there are Muppets in there too.
Yeah.
Miller's Planet, the Waterworld.
That's the
Waterworld. Kind of terrifying again.
Oh man,
a giant planet of only water, but you can stand in it.
But it's only 6 inches deep, but it's tsunamis all the time because of the gravity.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, horrifying. Yeah.
Then Anne Brand, is that her name in the movie? I just want to call her Anne, like we're pals. Anne is so hell bent to get this data that she almost kills herself, and she winds up killing that other guy whose name I don't remember.
He was right there at the ship. He could have made it. I guess. I don't know.
Chivalry, I guess. I don't.
Yeah. Who's that? He's the guy from the first Hunger Games. He constructed the games, I think. He had the neat beard cut out and the sharp pointy beard from the first one.
He didn't hang around long enough to make really any impression. He was
No.
pretty inconsequential.
He was. An interesting fact about the scene in that on Miller's Planet, the soundtrack has a constant ticking. I don't know if you caught that, which was ticking every 1.25 seconds in the background, which was to represent a day passing on Earth.
Whew.
So like every just tick, tick days. So that when they come back to the ship, and they see Romley for the first time, and he's like, "It's been 23 years, you guys. What the hell?"
And they're like, "Why didn't you fucking take a nap, bro?"
He's like, "Oh, I did. Oh, I did. I got real bored."
You could have been asleep this whole time. Now you have a gray beard.
Yeah.
Your skin's the same because you have melanin.
Yep.
Congratulations, friend.
Yep. Can't tell. It's great. But yeah, I love that little tidbit of information. The 23-year videos, which is the scene that follows up, that one is utter heartbreaking and an incredible performance by McConaughey. I think that was his first take.
Oh, really?
I think I saw an interview or whatever where he's like, so I knew I was going to go in to shoot that day one. We're going to do that scene. And he didn't want to see the broadcast footage of what he was going to see from his kids or whatever. He's like, so I knew like going in and getting that first take, like that's going to be the most authentic. So like, don't fuck it up, essentially.
No pressure though.
No pressure. But it's such a good performance. It hurts, but it's so good. Holy crap, it's Matt Damon. I already talked about the audible guffaws and what's of holy shit, that's Matt Damon. As well as Topher Grace. Topher Grace? That's Topher Grace.
Well, he just came out of nowhere.
They both came out of nowhere at the same time.
Well, we knew we were going to meet an astronaut on this planet. You know.
I love that he was hinted at, you know.
Was he?
Yeah, so like when Cooper and Murph first get there to NASA and they're kind of giving the whole spiel about it. He's like, and of course this was all led by our, brave Dr. Man.
The best of us.
Yeah, and he pointed to like a blurry picture in the background.
Oh, I wasn't.
Yeah. But I don't know if that actually was a picture of Matt Damon or not.
At that point I was still probably in the Farscape.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we're gonna do a Farscape. Great, guys.
I was like, when do we meet Rigel the 16th? Like, what's Tiana gonna be there?
That would have been hilarious.
He just scoots by on his little floating rascal.
Yeah.
If you don't know what I'm talking about, you're really missing out.
But if you do know what she's talking about, you are just clapping. The twist and the great lies that come out, both from Professor Brand and
Alfred.
Who else is lying? Dr. Mann. Yeah. It almost kind of undercuts Professor Brand's whole arc, but it makes sense from a human perspective of just like, there really is no hope for everyone here.
I really thought I had more time.
Yeah, it's kind of like the Dark Knight-ness of it, at the end, like when Harvey Dent dies, Batman's like, don't tell anyone what happened. You tell them I did it, and I can be the bad guy, kind of a thing, but no one will know. So it's sort of that kind of thing, again, kind of Nolan-esque of that. But from a human perspective, it makes sense, I think. The black hole traversal is equally as trippy as the wormhole space travel, but I think it's more terrifying because it's black and silent when he goes through it. I looked up why he wasn't like spaghettified going into a black hole. That whole thing of like a black hole's gravity is so strong.
Oh, it just rips you apart.
Atom by atom.
Oh.
And it turns you literally into spaghetti. It is a scientific term called spaghettification. It rips all your atoms into strings of spaghetti.
How do we know that?
I don't know. Science, man. But apparently like the black hole, this one was so big and the gravity was gentle enough. They did their homework on it. So that's why he didn't. Yeah, I already talked about the rendering and the science backing it up, and then seeing a real black hole doing it. Super cool. And then the Tesseract is such a cool like last visual stunning piece of this. As well as Cooper Station when he looks out and they're playing baseball and the ball goes straight up and
Yeah.
wrecks somebody's house. And the kids cheer because they're a bunch of turds.
The only joy they have.
I guess they're like, we're on a giant spaceship and we're leaving Earth. We're at Saturn. So that's cool,
Yeah.
I guess. But yeah, any other thoughts or final thoughts on this movie that you have?
No, I came around to it. I cried a lot.
Yeah. Multiple views of this movie do not
Doesn't make it easier. I can't imagine that it does. I couldn't even fucking talk about it.
Nope. 2014, that was 100 years ago or whatever. A much younger person than I am now, like still
10
wrecked
years.
me.
Yeah.
But watching
being
now,
a parent through all of this, holy Jesus.
absolutely the hardest watch. And I was like, maybe we shouldn't watch this.
Well, thanks a lot.
But it's so good.
It got there.
It got there. But this movie, I think it's so good. It is a triumph, a technical masterpiece, a performance powerhouse by a bunch of people.
I look forward to Joe's cliff notes at the beginning of your next episode because he apparently really loves this movie too, and I want to know more.
Yeah. He especially loves the soundtrack.
Well, he's a soundtrack.
He's a soundtracky score nerd. So much so that like that's his like concentrating listening music. Most people listen to general music or whatever. He listens to scores, which is cool. That's a good Joe tidbit of information.
He's not here. We can tell all his business.
We should, but we won't. The themes hit so hard. It's a really good popcorn movie too, as well as being a dramatic science
What's
fiction.
a popcorn movie?
It's just like entertaining.
Oh, okay.
Just like what's going to happen next? Explosions, intrigue, drama.
It was really pretty.
It's very pretty. Yeah. Again, practical effects. You definitely get those Nolan type of moments that make it super entertaining. The ending kind of feels like The Dark Knight in a way. A lot of the shots, the overdubs, kind of stuff, and of course the score just slaps you in the face the whole time because it's so fucking good. Hats off to Hans Zimmer. Any other things you want to say about this movie? Are you glad you watched it? I know it was a lot.
I don't think I want to watch it again.
Yeah,
I think once is good.
This is kind. Yeah, this I put this in that camp of like movies that just like one and dones. So
like I don't feel like I would learn any more by watching it again because I can't brain. Inception. You have to watch that 2 or 3 times to even have the first clue about what's happening.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I need that with this.
Yeah, but this one, if you have questions, you can kind of just
You're not going to get answers.
You're not really going to get answers.
There are none.
You could kind of like jump on Reddit, like a Reddit rabbit hole to kind of just be like
theories.
Yeah, some theories or some of the science behind some of the things. But other than that, like it's a hard watch, but it's a good watch.
It was really pretty.
It was a good one. And like I said, sometimes you just need a good cry to like reset.
Not like that.
Yeah. But if it were us, we'd be like, "Oh, you want me to leave for space for however many years?"
Well, see, their wife's dead. So
yeah, what are you gonna do? You gonna let John Lithgow take care of him?
Otherwise, dickhead brother would have been in charge.
Yeah. Nope. And you know what? He kind of gets the shaft, the brother, because obviously Murph was the favorite.
Because he's a dummy.
Murph was the favored kid.
Yeah.
So no wonder he turns out shitty.
Yeah.
So it makes sense.
Well, and he's like complacent. He's like just happy to be there. He's like, no, I like corn, Dad.
And yeah, he's just like, well, that's too bad. Good thing I'm putting all my eggs in Murph.
Yeah.
Cool. We're gonna get to end games here.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I have no idea what this is. We haven't even talked about it.
Oh yeah, it's totally fine.
Stay.
Yep, that said Worm Jeopardy.
Sure it did.
For the video, or actually, so for the audio listeners who don't watch the video, I cut that video in landscape, not in portrait.
He
So
didn't preview it in Uppy Downy, so
I know,
most of it got cut off.
which is fine.
I bet it was cool.
It was real cool. It said Worm Jeopardy.
Sure it did.
I was either going to call it Worm Jeopardy or Into the Wormhole, but kind of like Into the Unknown
Yeah.
from Frozen.
Into the unworm.
Or Into the Wormhole. But ultimately ended up on Worm Jeopardy because just the way that I wrote the questions. This was something that you gave me the idea last night.
Oh, good.
Before we went to bed. He said, this movie is full of holes.
It is full of holes.
Wormholes.
So mad.
So this is a game. This is a game about fictional worms.
Oh, okay. I might actually have a shot at this.
You really might.
Okay.
This is
bring it on.
This is gonna be good. So thank you again for the never-ending inspiration for this. Question 1 of Worm Jeopardy.
Mhm.
Your answer can come in the form of a question, doesn't have to. Number 1, residing inside a crook in a wall, this worm touts a British accent and wants you to come inside and meet the missus.
Oh, he's the worm from Labyrinth. He's the
Absolutely
little
right.
blue guy.
That's right. And he says hello.
Hello.
Question number 2. This worm is friends with the real nasty fellow who lives in a can.
Is it slimy?
It's-
It's slimy.
Yeah.
I know about worms.
Yep. From Sesame Street. Yep.
Those are 2 Muppets.
Both Muppets. See, it comes back to Muppets always.
Never not thinking about Muppets.
Mm-hmm. Question 3. These worms live on the planet Arrakis and wholly consume the planet's special feature of spice. What's the name of the movie?
Oh, is it the movie with Brooke Shields? No. No, it's not. I have no idea.
We saw this movie while you were very, very pregnant with my sister.
I was not pregnant with his sister.
No, she was there. She was there too.
Oh, Dune.
Correct. You got it. 3 for 3, even with the assist. Question 4. And I think this is what
I'm
you're
thinking of a bug.
Oh, Brooke Shields.
Isn't that her? I don't know people's names.
Denise Richards.
That
I think.
one. That
Yeah.
one.
They're just bugs. Space
Yeah,
bugs. Starship
big
Troopers.
ones.
Starship Troopers, yeah.
Unrelated.
Unrelated. Question 4. These worms are featured in this horror comedy film set in a desert town.
Is it Beetlejuice? No.
Starring Kevin Bacon.
No. What?
The movie title is also another word for earthquake or vibration of tectonic.
Okay, sorry. I interrupted you. Do it again.
These worms are featured in this horror comedy film set in a desert town starring Kevin Bacon. The title is also another word for earthquake or vibration of tectonic plates.
I don't have a clue. Is it like Tremor? I don't know what that.
Tremors.
I've never heard of that movie.
Tremors is the movie. Yeah.
But
It's like an early 90s, late 80s movie.
Never heard of it.
Giant worms. Yeah. Question 5. This sentient worm is housed in a robotic supersuit, complete with a blaster
Earthworm
gun.
Jim!
And on occasion uses his own head as a whip.
I
Correct.
played the Earthworm Jim video game on the PC back many moons ago,
I played it on this Sega.
and I can hear it. I can hear the different things that he did when you whipped his head around, or like I can hear it in my brain.
It lives there
It lives
infinitely.
there.
Yeah, rent-free.
Mm.
Question 6. These worms live on a remote asteroid waiting for the next spaceship to seek cover deep within their mouths.
Oh, it's Star Wars.
Mhm.
Wow.
Yep. Most notably Empire Strikes Back.
They got
that
oh god, they got like saw teeth.
Yeah.
I don't know what they're called.
They have a name, but I didn't get it.
Okay. Star Wars.
Star Wars
It's
is the
the
answer.
Star Wars.
Is the answer. 6 for 6. Way to go. Question 7. These black and white worms from
this
this
one's
film
Beetlejuice.
called the planet Saturn their home. A favorite snack of theirs are bioexorcists. Beetlejuice. Well done. 7 for 7.
Hate them.
You hate them. I hate them. Sandworms. Question 8. This toy worm from the 80s are adorned in cozy pajamas, and when you give their tummy a little squeeze, their heads give off a pleasant glow.
It's a glowworm.
Glowworm. 8 for 8. Question 9. This cartoon worm is an enormous monster who terrorizes the townsfolk of Bikini Bottom.
Jill's screaming.
Mhm.
I don't know. Squidward's not a worm. He doesn't terrorize things. Plankton's kind of a terrorist. There's a worm?
There's a giant worm, a notable worm from like one of the
Who
episodes.
is it, Jill?
It's not a name, but it is from SpongeBob.
Okay, well,
Yeah, it was
then I win.
an Alaskan bullworm.
Oh,
Question 9. You missed that one.
I didn't miss it. I knew it was SpongeBob.
Did you say SpongeBob?
Yeah.
You did. Okay, I'll give it to you. That's fine. And
All
last,
I'm trying to do is name the show. You said Bikini Bottom. I know where that is.
you know where that is. Yeah, the Alaskan bullworm. Question 10. This high fantasy creature was called the Great Worm, or the Father of Dragons, and was one of the foremost lieutenants of Morgoth during the First Age, as described by this author.
That sounds like Tolkien.
It is. You did it.
I did it.
10 for 10.
9.5.
9.5 out of 10. Ain't bad.
Yeah.
We did it. We did Interstellar without Joe.
Joe
was there.
No, he wasn't. That was Matt Damon.
That was Matt Damon.
Joe was nowhere.
Joe was nowhere to be seen.
No Joe's.
No Joe's no Joe's here, folks. I don't think we talked about where we were. This is
Well, you're here all the time.
I am here all the
This is where
time.
you always record.
But this is a different view.
Except
I'm usually
camera
over
points
there. Yeah. Yeah. Last time we did this, we were in the living room. This
same chair though.
Same chair.
But the Christmas tree goes where this chair is.
Yeah.
Usually.
Yeah.
So this chair had to go. So we had to move the whole podcast.
The whole thing. But luckily we are mobile and we are flexible. And I think this is more cozy.
Yeah, I like this better. And I feel like I can be a little louder without having to worry about waking the baby.
Yeah. Yeah. Is she stirring? Is she fine? She's good?
She's fine.
She's whatever. She's asleep. This is UCU after bedtime. So no big deal. This is great. This is fun. I love doing these. Just as much fun as the first time.
I feel like you give me these movies and you're like, this is so meaningful to me. And I'm like, what the hell? Sorry.
But this one was good. This one was good to you.
Yeah, it really came around. I didn't.
It hurt you.
In the first half hour, I didn't know if we were going to get there.
But this one hurt you in the end.
It did. Oh, man.
McConaughey got you. You got McConaughey.
I don't want to be McConaughey. I don't.
We'll watch Dallas Buyers Club next. And that one hurts for different reasons.
No headphones.
No headphones. Don't need it. But yeah, so next is December coming up. And I think we're going back to like Christmassy movies. And I can't remember what Joe's pick is, but I'm going to make Joe go first.
You've done 2 in a row.
I've done 2 in a row. So Joe's going to go first. Actually, wait, I have the notes here. And Joe is going to do a movie.
Oh, yeah?
He's going to talk about a movie.
Well, one of these days we might actually get a TV show or something in. And I had a really good idea for a November episode, but it would have had to be a Justin and Joe thing.
But Joe is out of
Joe is MIA.
He's not missing. He's just not here in action.
So what would you call that then?
He is known. He is in a known place in action. He is somewhere in action, just not here. I think this is still his choice. The Family Stone. And I know nothing about that movie. Is it like Stone
As
Cold?
in Sly? Sly and the Family Stone?
Sly and the Family
That's a
Stone?
thing I've heard of.
Oh, yeah, maybe.
Isn't that a music group?
Emma Stone, yes. Emma Stone, Stone Cold Steve Austin.
The Rolling Stones.
The Rolling Stones, Keith.
Many
Keith
stones.
We
will leave no stone unturned.
Oh, man. I hope that's the game.
Okay, Joe, I hope you're listening.
And then I'm going to do a Rolling Stones cover. It's going to be great. I'm going to do my best Mick Jagger. It's going to be great.
Stand the mic up.
Uh-huh.
We'll hang a bunch of crap off it.
That's Steven Tyler.
Oh, I don't know.
They're all 100 years old.
They are. They're going to live forever.
Yeah. But not if they master gravity first. That was the Uncultured Cinematic Universe. Catch us.
I'll just take a long, really wet nap.
Yeah. It is a wet nap.
It's so wet.
You got to stay moist.
Question I had. I have so many questions.
You got to stay wet if you're going to be asleep for a long time. You know, I don't know. That was the Uncultured Cinematic Universe.
That's it, folks.
Catch us wherever you get your podcasted. On YouTube, just search for the Uncultured Cinematic Universe. And of course, see Ryan's great work and interact with all the stories and things over on Instagram at UCU Podcast. And we're on TikTok, but I don't remember what the handle is. They blocked my my Eternal Sunshine video.
Oh, they
So,
did?
Mhm.
Damn.
So we'll
We've
put
only
it on
posted
Instagram.
like 5 things over there.
We'll
I
put it
don't
on
have that
Instagram.
password, so whatever goes on TikTok is not. I got. Don't put my name on that.
I don't know what that is, which is fine. But yeah, so in a couple of weeks, we're going to do the Family Stone and talk about all the Stone folks,
All the Stones, the Stony.
the rock people.
Oh, maybe
from,
we're doing the Crudes.
maybe the Crudes or the people, the rock people from Frozen that show up magically.
Oh, the Trolls.
Magic stone
They're
trolls.
trolls. Yeah.
May just rocks, I guess. Catch us later, whenever you do the thing.
Bye.